So I'm about to be real ignorant because I think what I'm about to say is based off of my idea that Serbia is in Russia. And we think the Russians, because we like imagine a payment comes from, like, let's say Serbia to America or something like that, for, like, I'm thinking the Tim Pool cast in this case, because he's claimed to be like a Russian asset or bought by the Russian asset. It legitimately could be a Venezuelan company that has a company, or the Venezuelan gang Cartel de Sol has a company in Serbia that then is thus paying Tim Pool. So it looks like the Russians are paying for it, but it's actually the Venezuelans who have a company in Russia who are sending. Whoa! All right, as I was scrolling on Twitter, apparently I found the most important video you'll ever see before the 2024 election. This is going to be a video of Gary Bernstein, a whistleblower with deep ties to the Department of Justice, the FBI, the DEA, and the Homeland of Security, the HSI, has come forward with the explosive revelation that our elections have been hijacked by foreign entities. Let's see what he has to say, yeah?
Hello, my name is Gary Bernstein. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force and a retired senior operations officer and chief of station of the Central Intelligence Agency. For over 3 decades, I've served in the U.S. national security apparatus in various capacities. Shortly after the attacks of 11 September 2001, I entered Afghanistan and commanded CIA paramilitary forces, helping seize the cities of Talokan and the capital of Afghanistan, Kabul.
Damn.
I was the driving force and architect of the Battle of Tora Bora.
Dude, this guy's credentials are insane.
I held the position as chief of Hezbollah operation in CIA's counterterrorism center for several years and concluded my service in CIA as a chief of station in Latin America.
I would actually like to know, like, off record, what his opinion is of everything going on in the Middle East. I know this is his, like, coming out forward party, but
combating narco-terrorists. Approximately 6 years ago, a business associate and I began working together as whistleblowers for the Department of Justice, FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security Investigations, HSI. Our target was the largest and most well-funded transnational criminal organization on the planet, called the Cartel del Sol, Cartel del Sun. The Cartel del Sol is the Venezuelan government and is led by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, Gustavo Cabello, Minister of Defense Vladimir Lopez Padrino, President of the National Assembly Jorge Rodriguez, and former Director General of Military Counterintelligence Hugo Carbajal, who was detained in Spain several years ago and extradited to New York.
He's giving out names, saying the Venezuelan government
President Maduro has a U.S. indictment and bounty of U.S. $15 million for his capture. Gustavo Cabello has U.S. indictment and a $10 million bounty on his head. At least 6 other Venezuelan cabinet members and senior officials are indicted. In the last 20 years, the Cartel del Sol has stolen $1 trillion US from Venezuela's national oil company, PDVSA, and embezzled $500 billion US from its national treasury.
Yo!
It not only has, but continues to produce and smuggle 25 to 40 metric tons of cocaine every month out of its country into the world. The Cartel del Sol is a $2 trillion transnational criminal organization and the most well-resourced criminal syndicate in history. Through bribery and investment of its funds, it controls 12 countries and world leaders. It has massive investments in the U.S. and European financial markets and institutions.
Holy fuck.
As we conducted investigations against the Cartel del Sol and presented them one after another to the U.S. Department of Justice, we noticed and pursued leads from the cartel's money laundering operations to the world of non-governmental organizations and election companies. After witnessing election irregularities associated with the 2020 U.S. presidential election, we decided to direct time and resources to Cartel del Sol links to U.S. and global election fraud. After an exhaustive 3.5-year investigation, it is indisputable. Smartmatic Election Systems was created at the direction of now deceased Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and its source code, the basis of its operating system, developed jointly by Venezuela's Consejo Nacional Electoral and Smartmatic, was designed to allow election results to be altered without the knowledge of voters and the public.
Man, this is. I know so many people suspect this. Recently, Guatemala, I believe, had a presidential election and some guy won. And then a few days later, his head, not his body, but his head was delivered on top of a car in like the town square. So shit in South America is still very wild, wild west compared to how it is here. And this guy is saying all the quiet parts out loud. This is insane. This is like actual military Tim Waltz over here. Is this what he reminds me of? Just how he looks, not how he sounds, but holy shit.
Additionally, the Venezuelan CNE holds ownership of Smartmatic's source code. Each time the Venezuelan CNE and
Like
Smartmatic
Tampon Tim wasn't
update the source
Tampon Tim,
code,
you get this.
a copy of it is stored at the vault at the Venezuelan Central Bank. In 2005, a European Union electoral observation mission to Venezuela published a report stating the Venezuelan regime owns Smartmatic source code. The Venezuelan government signed that report as factual. Smartmatic's first election in Venezuela was the 2003 recall election of Hugo Chavez. The CNE director at the time, Jorge Rodriguez, at the direction of the Cuban Directorate General of Intelligence, DGI, hired 3 Venezuelan American computer engineers that were graduates of Simon Bolivar University, a Venezuelan university linked to the U.S. University MIT. They had already registered a software company in Delaware and opened an office for it in Boca Raton. The engineers, Antonio Mujica, Roger Peñate, and Alfredo Anzola, established Smartmatic at the direction of the Venezuelan regime, built the source code, and flew off to Italy to buy lottery machines from Olivetti to serve as election hardware. They succeeded in altering enough votes to ensure Hugo Chavez's victory in the recall election. Secure in power, President Chavez decided to weaponize this capability beyond Venezuela's border. Smartmatic would enter into the U.S. election market in Cook County, Illinois, and the state of New Jersey for Democratic Party primary races in 2006. In 2005, Smartmatic orchestrated the purchase of Sequoia Voting Systems, Inc., a U.S. company. Sequoia was a company that had conducted elections in the U.S. for over 100 years and had a 22% market share of the U.S. electoral market. Approximately 18 months later, the Committee on Foreign Investments in the United States, CFIUS, began investigating the ownership of Smartmatic because of Smartmatic's Venezuelan connection. Smartmatic immediately put its source code in the machines, in the Sequoia machines. Smartmatic tried to conceal its Venezuelan connection by hiring a former U.S. naval officer, Jack Blaine, to set up a holding company, SVS Holding, to place its ownership of Sequoia in stock. In December 2006, Smartmatic entered into an agreement with CFIUS to sell Sequoia in 6 months. Antonio Mujica, one of the 3 original founders, then found a little-known election company in Toronto, Canada, Dominion Election Systems, that had only managed one small local election in Toronto.
Yo, this is way more widespread than I thought. This is not just South America. This is in Canada. Yo, this is legitimately so widespread. What the fuck?
He arranged for Dominion to purchase Sequoia. Dominion, owned by John Polis, with that purchase of Sequoia, would inherit the licensing agreement for Smartmatic's source code, the source code owned by the Venezuelan regime, i.e. the Cartel del Sol. To be clear, Smartmatic and Dominion would ultimately sign an agreement that provided Dominion with the U.S. market and Smartmatic the international global market. The only 2 exceptions are that Smartmatic does elections in Los Angeles County and Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico was an issue they ultimately settled in court. In Caracas, in a building owned by the CNE, the Consejo Nacional Electoral, more than 100 software engineers, half from the CNE and half from Smartmatic, worked side by side. Their effort for more than a decade was to perfect the techniques of altering elections and defeating audit. In 2018, Smartmatic publicly and with the approval of the Venezuelan regime broke with the regime, the Cartel del Sol, because the Venezuelan CNE's theft of an election was so egregious. The techniques of the source code and machine operate and conceal a theft of an election when the spread of the candidates is between the 3 to 5 percentage points. As sophisticated as the machine is, it can be defeated with significant turnout against it. The recent 2024 election in Venezuela was also so blatantly stolen, and the machine could not conceal that massive spread either. In its place, a company called Xclay took Smartmatic's place as the election provider in Venezuela. Allowing Smartmatic to exit Venezuela in this fictitious manner allowed the regime to retain its power and influence over the global electoral market. Smartmatic built a production facility for electronic voting equipment hardware just outside Beijing, China, and then shipped the hardware to a warehouse in Taiwan. In violation of US law, the hardware was marked as manufactured in Taiwan and shipped to both Smartmatic and Dominion for use in US elections.
Whoa.
Dominion
Dude,
voting
this is
system
insane.
manages elections in almost all the swing states in the US, which determines who wins the presidency. We have evidence and witnesses that can prove the source code operating the election machines of both Smartmatic and Dominion and other election companies are owned by the Venezuelan narco regime. And we have evidence and witnesses proving the machines are manufactured in the People's Republic of China. Every citizen needs to be asking, where's the DOJ, FBI, CISA, and where's the CIA?
Yeah.
Is anyone in the national security apparatus defending our democracy or enforcing the law? And if that
This is what it feels like in this election. It's either you voting for the standard quo, you're voting for the military industrial complex, big pharma, our corrupt education system, the failed immigration system. You think that is the way forward for America, or you go to the other side that is trying to make America healthy again, safe again, close up the borders, kind of reshape ourselves. And will that probably have to go through a period of uncomfortability? Yeah, but just like a fat person trying to get in shape, you don't get to a new level without getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? And I know that may suck to hear, but it's the truth.
isn't enough to convince you there's a major problem, Dominion, in an additional step to conceal its manipulation of U.S. elections, moved its research and development and servers, which store swing state voting information, to its office in Belgrade, Serbia. In the Belgrade office, Venezuelan, Chinese, and Serbian software engineers maintain system administrator status over swing state elections and alter elections as directed by the Cartel del Sol.
So is Serbia in Russia, right? Okay, so I'm about to be real ignorant because I think what I'm about to say is based off of my idea that Serbia is in Russia. And we think the Russians, because, we like imagine a payment comes from, like, let's say Serbia to America or something like that for, like, I'm thinking the Tim Pool cast in this case because he's claimed to be like a Russian asset or bought by the Russian asset. It legitimately could be a Venezuelan company that has a company, or, the Venezuelan gang, Cartel del Sol, has a company in Serbia that then is thus paying Tim Pool. So it looks like the Russians are paying for it, but it's actually the Venezuelans who have a company in Russia who are saying, whoa!
Sol, the Cuban DGI, and the Chinese CCP. The facility and its personnel are protected by Serbia's counterintelligence service. Swing state voter information is saved on Huawei servers in Dominion's Belgrade office.
Wait, Huawei's not even allowed in here. So you're telling me it's saved on Huawei servers? Huawei is a Chinese-based company. So if there's any Chinese business, the government has intrinsic ties to it, right? It's just the truth. Yes.
These servers are linked to Huawei servers in Hong Kong, China. For years, the U.S. national security apparatus has identified Huawei and its technology as a threat to U.S. national security. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, a component of the United States Department of Homeland Security, is responsible for cybersecurity and infrastructure across all levels of government. CISA has 3,100 employees and a $2.9 billion budget. In 2020, when faced with calls to address election irregularities, CISA did a conference call with Smartmatic and Dominion in order to better able to address the public's concerns and assure everyone that there had been no irregularities. Yes, it's shocking. CISA decided to consult the criminals in order to respond to the American public's outcry. In August 2024, 3 current and former executives of Smartmatic were indicted in Florida in connection with bribery during the 2016 election in the Philippines. Among those arrested executives is Roger Piñate, one of the 3 founders and current president of Smartmatic. Roger Piñate paid $8.5 million in bail.
Damn.
What the public will soon learn is that the bribery paid in the case was not to obtain a contract. The bribery was paid to alter election results. We have the CNE's source code. The source code.
So at this point in time, I feel like the elections have always had a level of fuckery behind it, right? Like even if it's just 1%, the elections are 100% honest. I've always imagined there's 1 to 2% level of fuckery. Recently, from 2016 up until recently, you can add a 0 to it because it feels like about 20% of it is fuckery. And this is why.
Employed by Smartmatic, Dominion, and others. We will surrender it to appropriate authorities. Source code, like DNA, can easily be matched with other systems to prove that they are from the same family. In this particular case, it is a family of altering elections. 2 years ago, we briefed a senior FBI agent in Washington, D.C. That agent, after seeing our 3-hour presentation with corporate ownership documents, engineering specifications, and witness statements, told us to flee Washington, D.C., that the FBI would actively work to destroy our efforts and seek ways to prosecute us in order to stop our investigative efforts. That was a stunning moment, hearing those words from a 20-year veteran of the FBI. 7 months ago, with our attorney, we briefed a U.S. attorney and 2 assistant U.S. attorneys, federal prosecutors from the Department of Justice. The U.S. attorney told us he would forward the information to the Office of Public Integrity at the Department of Justice. That U.S. attorney followed up with us months later to see if the Office of Public Integrity had contacted us. They never did. Smartmatic, Dominion, and their media allies will immediately point to the fact that Fox News settled with Dominion, paying U.S. $787.5 million.
Holy shit.
And that Newsmax just settled with Smartmatic this past week in a defamation case as evidence of Smartmatic and Dominion innocence. In Fox News against Dominion, we briefed Fox News trial attorneys. Our lawyers were present when we did that. Fox News corporate officers refused to be briefed directly for that case. They wanted plausible deniability. Fox News corporate knew we had significant evidence and, more importantly, witnesses. When all the facts are known, Fox News executives and board will have to explain why they went down on their knees for enemies of the U.S. We briefed Newsmax's corporate attorney as well. Though their settlement with Smartmatic is not public, any settlement with either company and their masters, the Cartel del Sol, the Cuban DGI, the CISA and CCP, makes it more difficult for those of us trying to defend the country and our democracy. I ask everyone to go to the website, stolenelectionsfacts.com. That's stolenelectionsfacts.com. Here you will find articles and original source documents supporting the claim that Smartmatic and Dominion are employing a source code created and owned by the Venezuelan regime with hardware manufactured in China that alters election results. I will follow with other videos and statements to inform and educate others. Best-selling author Ralph Pizzullo has written the book Stolen Elections: The Plot to Destroy Democracy. It will be released in late October. Mr. Pizzullo interviewed my whistleblower associate and I, and several of our key witnesses. This is a must-read to understand one of the greatest crimes ever committed against the United States. This is an assault on our democracy. Again, go to the website stolenelectionsfacts.com. Look at the timeline, the documents, and the original sources that are attached. Thank you for your time. God bless America. We go forward.
Wow, I'm not gonna lie. I just tried looking up that website too. Here, let me pull it back on this screen. I found it, but look at this. When I went in and just typed stolenelectionfacts.com, it brought me all of here. Right, I had to type it in exactly how I saw it at the bottom for it to come up. And if we click here, then hopefully, bada boom, bada bing. Here's everything. This is actually this is insane. And this, to me, once more, what I'm talking about, the one side of this political race is talking about continuing the status quo, a new age of leadership, which is backing with corporate elitists, backing with big pharma, backed by just continuing to our corrupt education system, the military industrial complex. All of that is backed by one side, and it's so obvious. And one side is claiming to make America healthy again, great again, wealthy again, safe again. It just makes no sense to me. No sense to me at all. But do your research. Check out the website. I'm going to leave it in the description below. This video actually is pretty damning. I'm going to do more info or like digging onto this website because it's... wow. But if you like the way the words are coming out my mouth, if you're picking up what I'm putting down, please like the video, subscribe, share with your friends. Whatever I see on the internet that I find interesting that I want to share my 2 cents on, it's kind of what I've been doing. That's what this YouTube channel has turned into, and I love it. Because it gives me a lot more freedom, because I don't feel like I'm just stuck to games or just doing specific things. We're just out here in this little community that we're developing, and I want to know your thoughts. We all like to sniff each other's farts and let know what each other thinks. I need to come up with something better than that.